Hello, WiCCD members. My name is Maya Shukeri, and I am WiCCD's Education Committee Director. I'm happy to introduce our series, Finding Your Niche. In this series, we will interview female criminal defense lawyers who practice in a specific area within criminal law. The goal of our series is to highlight the work and accomplishments of female criminal defense lawyers, but it is also a way for us to introduce you to specialty areas within criminal law. We hope we can help you find your niche. Enjoy the series.
Hi, Karin. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Very happy to have you as my guest today. We're friends, but it's nice to actually have a formal interview and get to chat with you for WiCCD's Finding Your Niche. So thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today for this.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm very happy to see you, Karin, and I know who you are. I know all the amazing things that you've been doing for the profession and that you continue to do. But maybe we can start by having you introduce yourself to the audience for people who may not know what you do and where you're based and where your firm is.
Sure. So I'm Karin Stein. I was called to the bar in Ontario in 2005. I went to Ottawa U for my law degree. I am a native Montrealer, so that's something you and I have in common.
Yeah.
of Montreal. I live and work in Ottawa. I've been in Ottawa since 1999, and I actually came here to do my master's in criminology. So that's part of my background as well, which then kind of led me into law. I didn't actually initially want to practice law. I wanted to be a policy lawyer and work for the government. And I had talked to one of my profs, and I said, well, what's the best way for me to get there? I said, should I do a PhD? Should I do a law degree? And he said, oh, do a law degree. So I did. And while I was in law school, I was talking to someone and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, well, how in the world can you do policy if you don't even know how it works in the real world? And I said, well, that's a good point. So I ended up getting some volunteer. I was working at the Department of Justice while I was doing my master's, and I was able to put it in touch with a lawyer who is now actually a judge. And I did some volunteer work for that lawyer, and I saw what the actual practice of criminal law was like. And after that, I just kind of went, hey, you know what? I kind of like this. So so far, I'm still doing it. Here we are in 2023, and I'm still practicing. So that's how I ended up here. My practice, I work in a small firm here in Ottawa. We go under the name of Carroll and Wallace. I'm in sort of a separate partnership with Elizabeth Warren. We're Stein and Warren, but we sort of carry on business under Carroll and Wallace because that was the firm that hired me way back in 2005, and there's been some changes there. So we're really just three lawyers under the Carroll and Wallace banner. It's me, Elizabeth, and Mark Wallace. So it's small. Mark Wallace, it has been a lawyer for 40 plus years, so we get a lot of mentorship from him. He's great. And that's what we do. So it's strictly criminal defense. I also do, as part of my work, I do police discipline with the OPP and the Ottawa Police Association. So that involves representing police officers when they have their internal discipline matters. It also involves representing them on special investigations unit matters and the occasional criminal file where a police officer is charged as a result of their employment action, so on the job incidents that result in criminal charges.
So there are also other things that you do we will get into, but while we're still on that point of the areas of law that you practice in, it's criminal, but you also mentioned the police representation. So how did you get into that area?
I got into it because of the firm. Bill, who's passed away, and Mark, they were doing that before they hired me. And so when they brought me on, I just started to do it with them, and I've kept doing it. So that's it's a firm thing that we do. So Elizabeth, Mark, and I all do this type of work.
Nice. And so this also can sometimes have more like a civil or tribunal aspect to it, more than criminal. right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's interesting to know. And that's a niche area as well.
Yep.
I think there are some people who only do this type of law.
Yes.
All right. So, but in addition to being a criminal lawyer, you also do a lot. I know you're very active, Karin. You do a lot of things. So maybe if you can tell us a bit more about these other things that you do that are also still related to criminal law in a way.
Sure. So I'm also a sessional instructor professor. I don't like the word professor at University of Ottawa Law School. So in the fall, I teach a trial advocacy course. And then in the winter, I teach an appellate advocacy course. And I teach with other practicing lawyers here in Ottawa. So the trial advocacy, I actually teach on it's more on the civil side. And then the appellate ad is a little bit mix of criminal and civil. So those are the two things that I do in addition to my regular practice. I'm also on the board of a program we have here in Ottawa called the Ticket Defense Program. Maya, you're familiar with it, but it's sort of spearheaded through the University of Ottawa Law School, and it is to assist, sort of homeless and underprivileged people who get these tickets, sort of nuisance type tickets, and they just have no way of either getting to the court or being able to manage what you would do. So we have student volunteers that actually go to court, and they're supervised by practicing lawyers. And again, it's an effort to sort of recognize that people who fall under the radar just are not in a position to sometimes advocate for themselves. They're not in a position to pay these astronomical fines because they were sitting outside on a park bench drinking a beer because they're homeless. And so I do that. And then I'm also, I am the captain of my neighborhood watch where I live. Neighborhood watch is really important. It's not just, as my friend said, oh, you probably go and find out where all the crime is and hand out your business cards. That's not what I do. I always thought communities were important. Community involvement is important. And you need to know your neighbors and what's going on. So I'm certainly a big proponent of crime prevention and a proponent of community safety. So that's what I do.
Well, kind of. You also are a member of the DCIO. So this is something that I think in the East region, we all know what the DCIO is. But for those who are not in the East or who don't know about it, maybe you can tell us about it. And then I would really like to talk a bit more about what you did when you were president of the DCIO. So let's start with what it is, Karin.
Sure. So the DCIO is the Defense Counsel Association of Ottawa, and very much like the CLA, it is an organization by and for defense lawyers. It's centered in Ottawa, as the name suggests. We do have a couple of members that are in the sort of neighboring areas. Like we have some lawyers that are part of the Cornwall Bar, L'Orignal. I think we have a few from Pembroke and Perth, but it's predominantly Ottawa. And we have a board, an executive. So we have a president, vice president, we have senior directors, junior directors, a treasurer, and a secretary. And this is an organization that tries to sort of, I guess, protect and advance the interests of the defense bar. We work very closely with the administration of justice here in Ottawa, so the local administrative judge and the Crown's office and the court support and all of that. So I had been a member of the executive for, I think it's close to 10 years. And then I became the president. It's not usually a hotly contested election, and often the president and vice president are acclaimed. I had done a stint as a vice president. The presidents before me seemed to always get appointed to the bench. I did not, of course. I didn't apply. But I had the fortune or misfortune of being the president throughout the 2 years of the pandemic. So I became the president in February of 2020. And then, of course, as we know, in March of 2020, everything sort of fell apart. And what I did as the president was, we, as I think with any courthouse, we have the one courthouse in Ottawa, and the only way for us to know as defense lawyers what was going on, what courts were open, what judges were sitting where, where we were scheduled, was we actually had to physically go to the courthouse and look on a court board and look at a schedule. It was sometimes we would get some kind soul and trial coordination to send us this schedule, but that wasn't like a regular thing. And then when everything shut down, we were all sort of flying blind, and we had no idea what was going on because, certain courts were still open. We still had bail hearings. We still had, eventually we had pleas. And that was something that actually our organization was instrumental in sort of getting up and running in the earlier stages of the pandemic. So I would have meetings every day, every morning with the LAJ, with the jail, with the Crown's office, with the JPs, or the head JP, with a representative from probation, representative from the court clerks and courts administration. And we would sort of try to sort out what was going to happen that day, what individuals are being brought into court. And then we were able to create a listserv, we had a listserv for our organization. So I was able to send out the schedule every day to all of the lawyers in our organization. We're about 120 lawyers or so that are on our listserv. So that was how we had arranged to keep the defense bar informed about how everything was working, because we couldn't go anywhere. And that's kind of what I think helped us to move things along here in Ottawa. And the idea was also to try to establish really good relations with the administrative judge and the Crown attorneys. And it was quite nice for a while there. It was very collaborative, and it felt like we really were all in this together. And yeah,
those days are gone. Yeah,
those days are gone. Luckily, we were able to keep a lot of these, I would call them advancements, of these advantages that we had been able to gain from this. So we still get these daily emails. I'm not involved in it, but we still get daily emails with the schedules of what court is where. We get the Zoom links for every court. We know what judges are sitting where, who the assigned Crown is in that court. So it just makes things a lot easier for us to get our work done, and to be a little bit more prepared as much as possible for our day. So you get the schedule. Usually it comes out around between 8:30 and 9. So even if you have a trial starting at 10, you're going to know ahead of time where you're supposed to be and who else is in there. The schedule also lists the other trials that are in that court, which is helpful. So you see how many matters are ahead of you, because as you all know, we don't always get that information before we show up. So that was one of the things that we were able to accomplish, the DCIO, throughout the pandemic, which was good, that it actually stuck around and had some staying power.
I mean, so I just want to ask a bit more about that, because now it seems like it's very simple. We all take for granted that we have remands by Zoom, and it looks very easy, but it wasn't that easy back then, because that system really didn't exist before 2020. We didn't have any virtual court appearances, except sometimes, like we had some witnesses in some trials who weren't in the country, who would appear by video, but remands, we never had remands by video. And this is really something that happened after the pandemic. And there was a lot of work, I know, that was done by the DCIO to push for that. And it's something actually that the defense bar was trying to install even before the pandemic, but nobody listened to the defense bar when we were asking for that. But I wanted to also ask you, Karin, because I remember when we were getting a lot of emails from you on a daily basis, regular updates. I mean, it was really astonishing to see how much, we were in touch. We were getting direct contact from you, direct updates from the president, which I thought was amazing. But how were you able to balance that with your work? And I understand that at the beginning, there wasn't much work happening. Everything was shut down, but eventually we started getting a little bit more work. So it was really, you said you had daily meetings every day in the morning. So how were you able to manage that and balance that work and requirement that you're doing for free again, with your firm work?
Well, as you said in the beginning, because we weren't running in-person trials, the workload slowed down a little bit. We all had our clients we were sort of trying to babysit and push through as much as we could. But so it was a lot easier, in March and April, when there really wasn't a lot going on. And it was also a good distraction. It was a reason, to get out of bed in the morning. The meetings were first thing in the morning, so it didn't really impact the rest of my day. I was able to get everything done and sent out. And I think like many of us in this, in the defense bar, we just adapt, and we learn how to multitask and to get things done. And I think like many people, I sort of feel like the more I have going on, the better it helps me to structure my day. You sort of know you have to do this between this time and this time, and there's no getting out of it. And you just schedule that in your day, and you just get it done. I think that's really just maybe the motto of all defense lawyers. You just got to get it done, especially when you're in it's not, I'm not a sole practitioner, but it's a small firm, and I have my clients, and between my business partner Elizabeth and I, we sort of would work off of each other. If I had to be somewhere, then she'll take care of the remands and case management court and things like that. So there's a lot of coordination, and it helps when you work with someone that that you communicate very, very well with, and someone where you have a very cooperative type of relationship. So I'm very fortunate that I have that as well. But yeah, I just sort of fit it into my day, and I knew I had to do it, and I knew it was important. And I was sort of the main contact point for the court's administration. So if they needed to get a message out to the defense bar, they would just let me know, and then I would send it out. And there was a lot of back and forth. I would get responses from some of the members of the defense bar, and we try to work through hurdles and issues. And there's a little bit of diplomacy involved, and as we all know, trying to deal with the powers that be over at a courthouse. Ottawa was, for whatever reason, we were selected as pilot projects for a number of things. I think that the enhanced designations were introduced in Ottawa, and I think London. I believe the actual reasoning was because we were sort of a manageable size in terms of the jurisdiction, and we had similar types of cases going through. So perhaps a little bit more homogeneous and smaller than, the Toronto was just Toronto's just a mammoth. With all at the time. I wonder what it would be like now with the disastrous mega courthouse, but at the time, so we were selected as one of these pilot projects, and I think it worked very well. Absolutely, the defense bar was always trying to encourage as much electronic things as we could, and the pandemic has really just kind of helped kickstart that a little bit for us. So even though we had been, I don't mean me specifically, but all defense organizations everywhere, I think, were saying, look, we can streamline things, we can make things electronic. Why in the world are we faxing things? Why are we binding 3 copies of every application and serving the Crown and the court and the judge's chambers in person? Like, it's ridiculous. So that was a great thing that finally happened. We had suggested a bunch of other potential improvements, specifically in relation to the jail. The Ottawa Carleton Detention Center is an ongoing disaster, and our clients couldn't get through to us. And we had volunteered to collect phones. We would go and say, look, we'll buy phones, don't have internet connection, and we'll deliver them to the jail, and you can pass them out to our clients and they can call us. But there was just sort of nobody wanted to agree to that. And so as much as we tried to get through to the that behemoth of administration, some of it didn't work, which is very unfortunate. And we sort of remain ever hopeful that one day they will listen to us. And I can't tell you how many times in these meetings I would say, look, you know what, we're all about efficiencies. We're all about trying to get as much done as possible with the least amount of cost. So listen to us, please. So they listen to us sometimes, but there's more work to be done.
Yeah, maybe another pandemic, right? Like, we'll take another.
I hope not. I hope not.
I mean, it's really sad though, because we can see now that after all this effort to get some more efficiency and more electronic and virtual appearances, that now we're getting a bit of a pushback from the bench, that now they want us to file everything in hard copy. For some judges, they insist. Some appearances have to be made in person, even if they're not trial appearances. So it's sad to see that after all this work and all the effort that went into putting that system in, that now we're kind of going back a bit to the pre-pandemic time. It's really sad.
It is. It's very frustrating, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I guess one sort of positive thing, and I know this was also in the works before, in the Superior Court, they have case lines, right? So everything is done electronically. And I think, as far as I'm aware, there's no paperwork exchange. It's all uploaded. I think there are some disadvantages to that as well. I've been on cases where the Crowns just upload massive amounts of information that I think if they had to actually produce it in paper form, maybe they wouldn't have. So I think there are some drawbacks to case lines, as well as I don't find any of these programs particularly user-friendly. I don't understand why we can't just send emails. I mean, anytime you want to do a bring forward, you have to email all these different people, and then they change the email addresses, and I mean, it really should be a lot simpler, but I guess we should be thankful for what we've got, right? We're not faxing, we're not having to walk over with it, produce and bring it up to a judge, come back and pick it up after it's signed. That it's all done by email. So
well, you reminded me now of that thing called fax. I mean, I forgot about that machine.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I have to tell you though, Karin, and I've told you this before, but you did an amazing job as a president of the DCIO. It was really at a very difficult time. Nobody had any idea of what to do at the time. It was really, there was no precedent, there was no example to follow. So it was an extremely stressful time. And I do remember how difficult it was. And I remember the daily emails we got from you, the updates. So you did an excellent job. I'm really very proud of you as your friend. And I'm very happy that you did get recognition. I mean, this is something that you didn't mention, but I'm going to mention that you were actually you did receive an award for your excellent job while president of the DCIO, and this is something that we're all proud of. And of course, with all respect for all past and current presidents, but what you had to do was really a very difficult job at a very difficult time, and you did an excellent job. And it's
thanks.
I really hope that one day you will run again as president of the DCIO.
Well, yeah. I guess I make a pretty good admin assistant, if nothing else, right?
Well, but one thing, and I am mindful of the time, but there's one thing that I do want to talk to you about also, because this is an interview for WiCCD, and you've been practicing in criminal law for some time now, and you obviously, just like everyone, you're witnessing this big exodus of lawyers that we're experiencing right now in the profession. Especially a lot of female defense lawyers are leaving the profession. And I wanted to ask you, for what do you think about what's going on about the female criminal defense lawyer? What's the future looking like, and do you have hope? Does it look positive? It looks very sad to me right now when I see many of my colleagues that we're losing, who either become crowns or just leave the practice of criminal law. It's really very sad, and many of them are very talented. It's not because they're not good enough for the job, it's just because of how things are. So what is your take on that, Karin?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think about quite a bit. Now, I myself don't have I'm not a parent, so I think that makes a big difference, is that for a lot of women trying to stick it out in criminal defense, if you have a family, it makes it very, very difficult. And I can see how there is a lot of appeal to go to the Crown's office. I mean, it's just the stability of it, right? And at the same time, the Crown's office, I know they have a lot of people come in on these contracts, which I think can be very disruptive, but at the end of the day, most of them, I think, ultimately turn into something a little bit more permanent. So all that to say, every time I see a new female defense lawyer arrive on the scene, you sort of think, oh, okay, I wonder how long this person is going to be able to stick it out. And I think it's particularly difficult for women who are on their own. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. I have a very supportive law partner, and so we can work well together. But I think if you're on your own and you have to try to maintain a practice in multiple jurisdictions or even just in multiple courts on a daily basis, it's really difficult. That's what I like about WiCCD, is that, you know, it's such a collaborative organization, and I love seeing all those emails about, you know, I'm stuck, I have a question, can somebody help me? And it's nice because, you know, you don't see, they always say, you know, there's no such thing as a stupid question, but you feel like you're asking a stupid question when you're writing some of these things, and nobody ever makes you feel silly. And I don't know if part of why women don't stay is, and it's very sad that even in this day and age, something we all need to work on, a lot of women just don't have that kind of innate confidence that the guys have. And I can't figure out why. I mean, I meet these women and they're brilliant, and then I look at the, you know, the websites of some of these guys, and you'd think that they've been practicing for years, and they're maybe a 1 or 2 year call, and they just have this tremendous confidence that and ability to self-promote that a lot of the women don't have. I can tell you that in, you know, when I'm teaching at the law school, it's predominantly female students. Like, there's a pretty large percentage of the student body that's female, and I and my co-instructor who's also a female lawyer. She does you know, family law and child protection stuff. So she and I sort of try to work very hard at encouraging these young women to stick with it, and, you know, to have that confidence to stay in the practice and to be proud of what they're doing. I know that from what I've seen, women who are in perhaps sometimes larger mid-sized firms tend to stick around a little longer because they do get that support from the rest of the firm. And then there's not, you know, there's other money coming in, so they're not necessarily being relied on as this sole earner for the firm. And I really think we have a few firms here in Ottawa that have managed to keep their female lawyers for the longer term, which I think is great. Our current president of the DCIO, Kirsten McRae, she is the same year of call as me. She's got 3 kids. She's amazing, and she's in a firm that offers a lot of support and, you know, an appropriate mat leave and all of that. So I think that maybe is the trick, is that hopefully if there are any, you know, small to mid-sized firms, that they're able to recognize and support these women and help them to stay in the practice, because it's hard for anybody, right? Like, this is a tough business, and you don't just need the financial support, you need that you need the emotional support as well, which again is what I like about WiCCD. But I also encourage, you know, women to reach out to other women. When I see a sole practitioner, I sort of let her know, hey, you know what, there's others of us out here, and we are here for you if you need support, if you want to talk about your cases, or if you want to talk about anything. It's kind of an informal mentoring and more of an emotional support type of role. For a while, we had here in Ottawa, again, pre-pandemic, it was between the Crowns and the defense. So the federal prosecutors, some of the provincial Crowns, and the defense bar, we had a bit of a women's lawyer networking thing happening, where we would meet in the mornings and go for coffee and just sort of chat about things, which was kind of nice. And then, of course, with the pandemic, it kind of fell apart a little bit. And we should probably look and see if that's something that we can bring back, because I think it helps a lot, and it makes it feel less us versus them. If you know there's somebody on the other side who maybe is going through some of the same things you are, And hopefully they won't, poach our good, well, any of our female lawyers. Yeah, it happens. It happens. For myself, it's never been something that I was interested in. I could not see myself doing Crown work. And when I talk to the young female lawyers, I shouldn't say young, but the female lawyers who leave, a lot of them say, yeah, sure, I love criminal defense, but I just couldn't handle the stress and the strain and the financial stresses of doing this type of work. And it's just, you go over there to the Crown's office, you have your, for the most part, 9 to 5. If you can't make it to court, there's going to be another Crown that they can stick in your place type of thing. It's just not the same in the defense world.
Yeah. No, it's sad, and it's the saddest part is that we're seeing more and more of these female criminal defense lawyers who are leaving. I mean, there are also some male lawyers, surprisingly, who are also leaving, which shows that the profession, I mean, just the job of a criminal defense lawyer is a tough job, and sometimes even male lawyers just get sick and tired of the stress that comes with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we have a few that from the Ottawa bar that have left recently. And I believe it was part of it were, family, recognizing that they don't get to spend a lot of time with their family, that, our phones are on 24/7. There's no such thing really as a day off. You really have to be vigilant about taking time off and making sure there's somebody else who can take the calls if you're not there. Let's face it. I mean, it comes down to money, right? Like, here we are, we've all gone through law school. It's expensive. You've done all of this, and you've probably saddled with debt, and it's hard to buy a house, and you don't have a pension, and unless you're making.
Well, and life is expensive now after the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, just if we want to compare the prices for groceries, it's just night and day between now and pre-2020.
It is. And you're absolutely right. And then, I mean, so we're having trouble making ends meet. And then we have clients who generally don't have a lot of money. They've got to scrape something together to hire us. So the pool of funds that are able to support us in terms of the members of the public that can hire us, I think it's a little different in Toronto, but certainly in Ottawa and some of the other smaller jurisdictions, there's it's difficult to get people to hire you at the rate that you should be paid for all of the work that you do. And then, of course, as we all know, I mean, the trials just get more and more complicated. There's so many applications that we have to deal with, and it's very rare that you just have a straightforward trial with no kind of drama other than the fact that there's a criminal trial happening.
Yeah.
I were talking about that the other day, that it's so nice. You go into court and there's a pleasant judge and crowd, and you just, everybody knows what their job is, and we're just trying to deal with this one case, and we're not worrying about similar fact applications or 278s or 276. And that really adds to the stresses and the strains and the uncertainty of how this job goes, I think. So,
is there hope though?
I hope there's hope. Yeah, I mean, it's hard right now. We're all in a bit of out of a recession, and it is taking us a long time to kind of claw our way back from A, the pandemic, and B, the financial strains that everybody is experiencing. But I am hopeful that, maybe people will, as opposed to being sole practitioners, maybe people can kind of, bind together, even in cooperatives or something like that, where everybody's sharing office space and sharing things and sharing ideas. And maybe that's one way that we can work to support each other and keep our costs down, and still maintain that independence, but get that support and mentorship and the assistance that we all need. And then maybe if we have, these cooperative and collaborative businesses, then maybe more women will stick around. I mean, hey, I'd be happy to babysit people's kids. You want to bring them to the office, and if I'm not in court, then I'll watch your kid. I don't have my own, but I like them.
Yeah.
So that's, maybe we just need to really rethink how this business is run, and that's going to take a bit of time. And I think we're sort of in the right place to do that. I think there's a recognition of the old way of doing things is not working. And we have to shake things up. We need to sort of, set the world on fire and blow things up and just change. And that's the only way to move forward.
And that's why we also have WiCCD for female criminal defense lawyers. And we're trying to build this community. We do have this online community, and we're trying now to bring it more into real life and have more physical and actual real life meetings. So hopefully we will get to continue that work on a provincial level, but also regional level in Ottawa. And I know that you've been working really hard, Karin, to do these things. And you did remind me of these pre-pandemic meetings that we used to have. They were fun, but sadly the pandemic killed everything social that we had. So it's sad.
I know. And I hate to keep talking about it, but it's unfortunately still very much a reality for us because it's had such a huge impact on us. But I am, as you say, hopeful that we are moving forward, we're moving away from it, and we can learn from it, and just make things better. And again, I love what WiCCD has to offer in terms of support. It's encouraging to hear from female lawyers all over the country. We're all sort of dealing with the same thing, and it's encouraging to have this band of people who, we're going to keep fighting this fight, and don't give up, don't let them get you down, kind of thing. And I had, someone had it in Vancouver, and then somebody else was dealing with a similar issue in Toronto, and someone else in Timmins or whatever. But it's great that even if it's just to sit, to sort of have a little bit of a rant, it's great. I think it's such a wonderful organization. I'm very proud to be a member of it, and I hope to be able to contribute to it a little bit more than I have so far. But I definitely read all the emails, and if I can, I will contribute with a precedent or anything that I can do to help, because I know I have been on the receiving end of a lot of help from other members.
Well, we're very happy that you are a member of WiCCD, and I want to thank you for taking the time today to chat with me and to let everyone know about what you do, because you are an amazing lawyer, a great friend. You're certainly someone that I call when I need help, or even just if it's for just emotional support. I always call you, Karin, and I'm very happy and proud to be your friend, and very proud of all the work that you're doing and all the contributions that you're making, and now with WiCCD as well. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Maya, and congratulations to you as a sole practitioner for sticking it out as long as you have. So
for now, we don't know for how long.
Keep at it. Keep at it. You go, I go.
Yeah. Thanks, Karin.